Thanks for joining us. The numbers of Somalis forced to flee their capital have increased almost daily as fighting between clans, interim government forces and Islamic courts groups caused death and destruction. Now, we can give you a clearer picture of the massive scale of that refugee crisis. Up to 400,000 people have been forced to flee Mogadishu, seeking what safety they can in the countryside. Charities have pulled out and violence and disease are widespread. With their plight previously hidden, our correspondent travelled to Bulahawa on the Somalia-Kenya border, where nearly 20,000 refugees have set up camp. Mohammed Ado is one of the few TV journalists working inside Somalia, and this is his exclusive report.
They fled when life became intolerable in the city, but now they face a bleak and uncertain future in these desolate borderlands. These are some of Mogadishu's displaced, now living in Bulahawa, a lawless town on the Somalia-Kenya frontier. Up to 18,000 people fleeing the recent fighting in Mogadishu have sought refuge here. They live in desperate conditions.
I decided to flee Mogadishu with my children when our neighbors' houses were hit by mortars and rockets. It was a sudden decision, and even my husband was not at home when we fled. The market where he worked was hit by mortars the same day we fled. We still have no information of his whereabouts. Despite all my problems here, I don't intend to go back to Mogadishu anytime soon.
Those fleeing the fighting are putting more pressure on an already impoverished community. Like many residents of Bulahawa district, physically disabled Shukri Below is hosting some of the displaced families from the fighting in Mogadishu. In total, he has more than 10 children and 2 women under his care. But with no meaningful accommodation of his own, Shukri cannot give them the shelter they need. So they have been forced to live under this tree day and night. The suffering of the displaced is made worse by an outbreak of cholera in Bulahawa. Dozens have died and hundreds are seriously ill. At the local hospital, wards are full. When we visited, 3-year-old Ahmed Abdul Wahid was being treated outside. His father, still mourning the death of his wife as they fled the fighting, looks on helplessly.
2 of my children came down with cholera 2 days ago. I brought them to the hospital. My daughter, who is 4 months old, died yesterday. I'm now looking after him. My 5 other children are all alone. I can't divide myself into 2, so I have decided to just stay with him till he gets better.
Bulahawa gives the displaced little comfort. The frontier town, like many parts of Somalia, remains chaotic and insecure. Armed militias rule and gunfights are common. These refugees have little hope of making it to the relative safety of already overflowing camps in neighboring Kenya. The Kenya-Somalia border remains closed, but however tired, sick and hungry they are not considering returning to Mogadishu. At least not yet. For now they stay here in this desolate place, waiting and hoping for help that's still to come. Mohammed Ado, Aljazeera, Bulahawa, Somalia.
Earlier, we spoke to Peter Goossens, the World Food Programme's director in Somalia. He said the conditions Mohammed Ado found were not uncommon in border regions, but his teams were getting supplies to refugees.
We're getting food in, I am proud to say, but there are many obstacles. And they go all the way from roadblocks, militias, to right now, and that is the problem we have at this moment. The rains are starting and therefore again make the roads almost impassable.
But what I'm interested to know is that obviously people need this food, but they need sustained relief as well. Is the World Food Programme in a position to supply sustained relief? And if so, for how long?
We are prepared to provide relief as long as we can, and in a sustained manner if that is possible. Then again, the circumstances don't always make it possible to make this very sustained. Occasionally it forces us to be spotty, a moment yes, and the next time maybe not. We're doing what we can, but we are prepared to provide as much relief in a sustained manner as we possibly can.
Aljazeera's exclusive look at life for Somalia's displaced continues on Tuesday. We'll look more closely at aid agencies trying to provide relief for Somalis from across the Kenyan border and the problems that they face on both sides of the border. That's on Tuesday on Al Jazeera.